This is one of the lessons I've learned. At the end of the day, the only person you truly have is yourself. And I don't mean that your family and friends aren't there to support you, but what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, the only person present in your head is you. Only you sleep with your thoughts, only you sleep with your desires, and only you sleep with your fears. This lesson was valuable because I realized the obvious truth that everything in my life channeled through me, and that by focusing on myself, I could cultivate positive change. Not just positive change, but permanent, because you can't just leave yourself. Relationships with other people can be temporary because it can be broken, it can fall off, and suddenly end. But with yourself, you can't just be like, fuck you bitch, I'm out. Like, no, you live with yourself every single moment. So for me, after years of going through things, this lesson finally clicked with me, which I'm thankful for, but if I could go back in time and teach a younger me this concept, a lot of life-changing situations could have been met with a stronger mindset and had better results. My mom left my dad, sister, and me when I was 2, and from there my dad was crippled with depression and fell into a lifetime of drugs and alcohol. With my dad not fit to be a parent, he disappeared. So, with that said, my sister and I would get passed between different family members on my dad's side, like we were some kind of curse. And after a few years, eventually we ended up with my aunt on my mom's side. So as a kid, it always felt like I didn't belong anywhere. There was always something that affected me as a kid whenever my sister and I would go to these family photo shoots, and I would see my aunts and cousins all paired properly in the fashion of parents with their children. And my sister and I never got to be a part of those specific photos because, well, we weren't anyone's kids. So with that said, an early seed of estrangement was planted in my life. As I began to grow, so did my estrangement with everything, and like any kid/teenager who feels out of place, I gravitated towards video games and fictional worlds and cartoons and anime, which obviously just made it harder to connect with anyone at an earlier age. I was considered different. I was shy and quiet, and through this, I just latched on to people who I thought were cool to try to fit in somewhere. So much of everything I did as a kid was because I wanted to fit in, because I felt alone. Of course, I didn't even realize it, and while I did have my sister, outside of our parents, her and I had different struggles and different interests, so even though we had each other, the loneliness was still very apparent. This process continues for a good while up until the middle of my high school career, where I started to understand that being around people who are cool doesn't change who you are. That shit doesn't actually make you cool. And while that was a very positive thing for me to figure out, I still needed to fit in. I didn't know how to talk to girls, and my mindset was so odd about things because my environment was always so unstable at home. And the weirder I felt, the more it secretly fed into this concept that I have to try to do things to be accepted by someone, hell, anyone. My second half of high school consisted of me revamping completely who I was. I was like someone that was quiet and wore glasses with a mustache because it seemed cool to appear older to other kids, to some kid with long hair who actively tried to speak up and out to people just to show them that, hey, I'm not afraid of being myself, ha 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 ha. It was essentially the equivalent of being a peacock. I showed my feathers and, I did whatever I thought people would think was cool, but in such a just dramatic and different way. All to potentially get a girlfriend or find a group of friends. This style of living was exhausting. And once again, the worst part of living like this was I didn't realize what the core issue was. Eventually, I grew into an adult. I was still searching for a place to fit in without even knowing it. And just like all young adults, by this time I'd experienced some friends and some romance. And with that said, eventually I experienced heartbreak. And not just regular heartbreak that you eventually get over and continue on. It's that second tier heartbreak where you physically feel it. At the time I'd experienced it, I was so lost to a point where I had to change, not for someone else, but for myself, because I couldn't sleep with my own thoughts. I couldn't function and do my own hobbies properly, and it finally hit me that I can be upset all day about someone else, something that happened, or just how the world is, but the only true thing I have 100% control over is me and who I am. So from that point, anytime I've gotten down or just living day by day, I just focus on growing as a person, whether it be physically, mentally, or emotionally. And the best thing is that by doing so, even if I'm upset or mad, as long as I focus on myself, when I look back, I can always see some sort of progress. And to me, progress is everything. If I could just go back in time, I would tell myself as a kid that it was okay not to fit in. And even though other kids have parents, parents don't define who you are. I would tell myself you want to fit in because deep down you want to be loved. But being a part of something for the sake of not being alone doesn't equal love. And I would make sure that I understood that if I could learn to love myself by focusing on growing smarter and taking steps towards whatever may interest me, that I'll never have to fit in anywhere because I don't need to in order to be happy, and that's perfectly fine. All because at the end of the day, the only person you truly have is yourself. I made this video to share some thoughts and possibly help anyone who could be feeling a similar way I felt. I don't believe that what I'm saying is completely 1000% unflawed, but I know it definitely helped me out. And maybe if someone's in a similar situation, just maybe this could help them as well.